right. Well, good morning, folks. Glad you all could make it this morning. On behalf of the Diversity and Contracting team, we welcome you to the 2026 Architecture and Engineering Industry Day. My name is Lawrence Coleman. I am the WIMBY manager here at the Port of Seattle. My team serves as the arm of the Diversity and Contracting team that supports inclusion of diverse small businesses, veteran-owned businesses on Port of Seattle contracts. And again, on behalf of our entire team, we welcome you to learn about this amazing opportunity to hear about upcoming opportunities. Before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to reaffirm the Port's commitment to inclusion and remaining what we consider us as a leader in diverse opportunities for small and diverse businesses all around the region. We really find that this work is important to us, and it's a really a very important priority to help us deliver the various projects all around the region. Before I get started, I'll share just some brief stats just to kind of give you some context. In 2025, the Port spent about $130 million on professional service contracts, of which about 24% of that, or $31 million, went to women and minority businesses. We worked with over 110 firms that were WIMBY-owned businesses in 2025. And again, I like to always start with some statistics to help you understand that this work is meaningful to us. But this work doesn't happen by accident. It happens as a result of partnership, which is what you're going to hear from today. This is a commitment all around the Port of Seattle, from leadership at the executive level all the way down to project managers. And so we're happy that you're here to hear about some of these amazing opportunities here at the Port of Seattle. I also wanted to give just a couple of updates just around the Port of Seattle. One of the things that we do on our team is we're always trying to find ways to better engage diverse businesses. One of the things we're working on is trying to flesh out and explore adding a A&E roster here at the Port of Seattle. We're in the very early stages of that, but one of the most significant things is looking at some more opportunities for professional service firms to work directly with us. And so some of those things may include increasing the dollar thresholds on professional services. So keep an eye out for that as we move ahead in planning that out. Today's program, you'll hear directly from project managers, subject matter experts all around the Port as they discuss upcoming professional service opportunities. Our hope is that you find this of value. As a reminder, this is a two-part experience. So we'll start here today in the virtual setting, and then we'll move on in the afternoon at Pier 69 about 2 p.m., and you'll have an opportunity to network. A couple of things to keep in mind. As you're listening to today's presentation, I encourage you to think about where your firm fits into opportunities that are being discussed. Some of you may be pursuing work as prime consultants. Others may find opportunities through teaming arrangements or subcontractor partnerships. One of the most effective tools here at the Port of Seattle we've done to expand participation is to use WIMBY goals and intentional partnerships on our contracts. So keep in mind how your expertise can align with how your expertise can support our project teams. I also want you to pay attention to some of the verbiage you may hear. You may hear some terms such as IDIQ, which simply means an on-call contract, or you may hear project specific, which is just that, an opportunity to work with us under defined scope. And if you're newer with the Port of Seattle, I want to remind you that we have a number of resources available on our website, and we'll be sharing some information. You'll find definitions, how-to guides, and introductory information on how to do business with the Port of Seattle. But most importantly, again, I want to thank you for joining us today at 9 a.m. So shout out to you all that showed up. And again, reality is we cannot do this work alone. With that, I'll pass it to Emily Ho to talk about some important housekeeping things, and then we'll get started with the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence, for that very warm welcome. Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Emily Ho. I am the Engagement and Training Program Manager on the Diversity in Contracting team at the Port. I will be guiding you through this 2-hour event and would like to share a few notes that will help you make the most of this time that we have together. So today, as you might already know, is an architecture and engineering day, and it includes professional consulting as well. That is our focus for today. We had a construction industry day in March. You can access the video for that online, and we're going to have a goods and services focused day further on this year. So please join us if that is of interest to you. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted online. The presentation slides, don't worry, will be sent to you to your emails after this meeting ends. And your microphones and camera access will actually be limited. It is limited to just the presenters. We've got, I think, 345 folks who registered for this morning session, and I see 214 of you who are signed on right now. So we want to make sure that the focus really goes to the presenters with the really important information that they have to share. That said, your way to interact, and please do, with us in this meeting is by using the Q&A function. You should be able to see it somewhere above at the very top of this window. It should look like those icons in that little square right there. The Q&A is the little chat bubble with a question mark inside. Please, please, please feel free to plug in your questions there. There will be a very brief Q&A after my colleagues at the Port present. This event will continue, as Lawrence said, with some in-person networking, and that's where we will all see you at Pier 69 later this afternoon, and we can't wait for that. But first, we have this 2-hour presentation here, and it will have no breaks. 2 hours is a long time, so I will, to make it easy for you, at the bottom of each of the slides in that blue bottom banner there is the name of the section that is being presented, in case you need to, be reminded and be like, what are we talking about? Who is talking? That's what that bottom banner is there for. Next slide, please. Here is a very high-level agenda for our day. Our first hour of this event will be about architecture and engineering and professional consulting across the Port. As I mentioned, there will be a brief Q&A at the end of that section. The bulk of the second hour of this event will be featuring a really exciting panel discussion with small and diverse businesses that actually have experience with working with the Port, and I'm so excited for you to hear from the folks who have actually experienced that, what it's like for them. And then closing the event will be next steps. So what do you do next? Next slide. All right, so kicking off that first section of our event, A&E and professional consulting across the Port. The goal after this 1 hour is that you'll be able to walk away being more familiar with who are the people at the Port who are actually having these architecture, engineering, and professional consulting needs. Who are those folks? What are actually the opportunities and types of opportunities and contracting needs that these respective teams have? And then lastly, what are some specific upcoming A&E contracts that are coming down the pike in 2026 and 2027 for each of those respective teams? Next slide, please. So before we dive into some of those really meaty details, I want to zoom out a little and talk about professional consulting at the Port very broadly. Last year, the Port spent almost $1 billion on contracts, $990 million to be exact. And in orange is professional services, which we also call professional consulting here at the Port. As you probably already know, it includes the disciplines of architecture, engineering, landscape architecture, and land surveying. $130 million of the port spent went to those disciplines, went to professional services. And 24% of those dollars, equating to $31 million, went to women and minority-owned businesses last year. And it went to 115 women and minority-owned businesses last year, to be exact. That is, as mentioned, Lawrence, like an incredible feat, and we do that with the collaboration and support of the entire port organization. Next slide, please. So 24% is much better than when the port first established our diversity contracting team in 2018, and it even exceeds our WIMBY attainment in the other contracting types. For construction, it's 14% usage last year, and for goods and services, it was 13%. But there is still progress to be made. And that is why our team's purpose here at Diversity in Contracting is still so important. That purpose is to make sure that every business has a fair shot at port work and remains just as important today as ever. And the port's executive leadership and commissioners recognize and fully support this. You can see in the port's new 5-year diversity and contracting goals, which are for 2026 to 2030, and that those are to increase the amount of spend on WIMBY contracts to 16%. This is port-wide on all types of contracts, and to increase the number of WIMBY firms doing business with the port to 500. And that number starts at 0 every January 1st. And our goal is by December 31, we have worked with 500 WIMBY firms. So that is why we are here today. It is to increase diverse and small business participation on our port professional consulting projects. Next slide, please. So those goals are not something that the diversity and contracting team does alone. We rely on our colleagues around the port who have those contracting needs, the folks who are actually spending the most of the $990 million. They're the folks who actually turn the port's commitment, that 16% and that 500 WIMBY firms, into a reality. And I'm so excited for you to hear from each of my colleagues that I worked with that are on the teams that you see on this slide. There are a lot of them, eight of them to be exact. So this table is to help you keep track of them all. We are starting with the port's engineering department, shown at the top in gray. You'll hear from Jana Zahn, our chief engineer, as well as Perry and Gary about the port's design services, design technology, and land surveying activities. And closely following them, you will hear from our project management groups on both the aviation and the waterfront side. They're the teams that help plan and manage our capital projects. And after that, you'll hear what our aviation and maritime environmental teams do and what opportunities they have. And then closing out A&E across the port, this first section, shown in orange there, is the aviation planning and the aviation facilities and infrastructure teams. As Lawrence mentioned, as a big organization, it's hard to stray away from the acronyms, but since we're on the decoding part of this, I do want to mention, if you see SEA, that's short for SEA Airport, also known as SeaTac Airport. And again, IDIQ is indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. You might also know that as on call. And that's where firms are contracted for a general scope of work for a period of time and then are issued service directives for specific scopes of work and level of effort as needs come up. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jana Zahn from our engineering department to our virtual stage to really get this meeting kicked off and to share about our engineering department before her colleagues share more.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So my name is Janice Son. I run the engineering department. Really excited that you guys are here. The engineering department is a port-wide department that serves all of the operating divisions here at the Port of Seattle. And Emily, if you go to the next slide, maybe I'll just speak for just briefly when you have, there we go, the org chart. So I would say that engineering has a long history of leveraging outside consultants to support our work. We have several different departments. So Gary and Perry will give you some of the information related specifically to design quality and BIM department, as well as survey mapping and utility services. In addition to that, we also have our construction safety department. And on June 9th, we are going to be asking commission for approval and advertising for construction safety services. There will be one contract for that. And then we also have the construction management group as well as operations. Later on this year, we will be going out for both construction management as well as some survey contracts. And so look out for that. One of the things we have really appreciated in partnership with our outside consultants is the ability to supplement our internal staff with your subject matter expertise to deliver for the Port of Seattle. And we're excited that you're here learning more about it. Just wanted to be here to kick off for engineering. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you so much, Janice. And now we've got Perry.
All right. Good morning. So thanks, Janice. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, yep, there we go. So I work under Joanna Hingle in the Design Services and Design Technology group. And that's design, so like your consultants, we have different engineers and architects, but also we have CAD and BIM folks as well. So Liliana Martinez leads up or heads up the design technology group. And then we have two other managers, Elmo and Megan, that do civil and electrical and mechanical design as well. So I head up the structural and architectural design group. And can we go to the next slide, please? So who we are, we have multi engineering disciplines that are part of our team, along with an architect. And then that's on the design side. And then design technology, they work across divisions, different divisions at the port, and work with drafting, so CAD, AutoCAD drafting, and then BIM modeling and standards for those efforts, along with support for projects and operations at throughout the port. So we're part of central services, so we work at the airport and along the waterfront. So we go from FT and Shilshole Bay Marina down to the airport and along the Duwamish, all over the place. A little bit about what we do. On the design side, we do your typical design development, but also we do technical reviews of designs, sometimes for the airport building department, and then sometimes just as a technical review, like a peer review. We also act as owner's rep on designs and in projects. So a lot of times that's on the waterfront side. Sometimes we help the F&I group at the airport. And then we do incident responses. So if a barge or something that breaks loose and hits one of our facilities, we are able to respond and look at what actions might need to be taken to get that back into operations, or if there's any action needed. On the design technology side, setting and enforcing digital delivery standards so that we can have a consistent product across all platforms, and that can be used for information that can be used in the future by other consultants or in internal design or planning efforts. Like I said, we work on the aviation and maritime side, and we're at Pier 69 on the waterfront. But we are out in the field quite often. One of the reasons we are used is that we're able to start projects without the scope fully defined or budget allocated, early planning work, project scope definitions. We also have a lot of historical knowledge on the facilities and are able to pull from our archives information for planning efforts. And that's more on the design side. On the technology side, we try to ensure that the information that is provided or available is trustworthy and accessible to all different business lines. Sometimes our information is used to determine window cleaning contracts or floor surface area contracting work for cleaning services. So it's kind of all over the place. And then what we procure on the design side, we usually write service directives against IDIQs held by other groups that you're going to be seeing here. So the project management group or environmental groups, and that's to help augment our staff. So you'll see the list of engineers or designers we have at the top there. We don't have geotechs in-house, so a lot of times we have to bring on a geotech to get that information for a project, or if we need to help, we need another architect on a project, we might advertise our services there through an IDIQ contract. Occasionally, we will put out a project-specific IDIQ contract. We did that for Terminal 5 effort, and we would do it in the future as needed. We've done that out at the airport as well for Widen Arrivals project. On the design technology side, we use purchase services contracts for and IDIQs specific for BIM efforts recently, and there's some contracts coming up for that. I think shown on a later slide. So that is going to be some stuff coming up. So I'm going to hand it off to Gary now.
Hi, thanks, Perry. My name is Gary Inslee. I'm the manager of the Survey, Mapping, and Utility Locating Department. We have a contract going out the end of this year or the beginning of next year, Survey and Mapping IDIQ for $4 million. This will be split into 2 contracts with 2 different firms. We also have utility locating contracts on our team, but we've already procured those, and the next one probably won't be going out till 2028. And they will consist of utility locating, GPR work, and potholing. Next slide, please. And this is a partial list of the scope that will be coming up in our survey contract, and I will give you an idea of some of the surveys that were done by consultants in the present contract, which a lot of it will be the same as in the new contract. We are now working on a STIA boundary survey and easements. This project is split into 6 phases over 5 years, and we are now in year 2. We are in the process of surveying all port-owned properties at the airport and setting property corners. Consultants have done many topographic surveys for us in this contract for design projects and as-builts. At the Waterfront, they've performed as-built surveys at Fisherman's Terminal, Marine Industrial Center, and they performed a design topo at Terminal 5 for Jackpot Park, as well as construction staking at Terminal 91. At the airport, consultants have performed design topography surveys in the airport parking garage for some of our projects and the baseball fields north of the airports. They've helped us with our 2027 airport improvement projects and also the South Concourse Evolution design topo. So they've been very helpful with these items. They performed a 3D scan on 188th Street Tunnel project at the airport. Our consultants have performed bathymetry surveys and a 3D scan, underdock scan of Terminal 30, Terminal 46, and Terminal 18. They performed dredge bathymetry surveys at Terminal 18, the West Waterway, and Terminal 5. Well, they do a lot of work for us. On Terminal 91, they recently performed a shallow bathymetry survey in areas that our survey boat could not reach just because it was so shallow. So that was very helpful for us. They performed bathymetry surveys at Pier 66. We do have a consultant survey project manager working with our mapping department on various utility and boundary surveys. We've had them perform an underdock 360 photo tour at Pier 66, which was very helpful on one of our projects. They performed ALTA surveys for properties that we've acquired in the last few years. There's been quite a few ALTA surveys that have been done. And just to give you an idea of some of the equipment that our department uses, our field uses Liking MS60 total stations, and we use ListCAD and Infinity software to process the field data. Our GPS units are Leica GS18 antennas and CS20 data collectors. We use RTC 360 and BLK 360 scanners. We use R2 Sonic 2024 multi-beam echo sounder for bathymetry surveys and a HiPAC software for processing. Our mapping department uses Civil 3D along with ArcGIS and many other various softwares. So this gives you a partial idea of some of the work that could be coming up on this contract and some of the equipment that we use. So I'll be available this afternoon to discuss the contract if you'd like to. So back to you, Emily and Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Perry and Gary, as well as Janice. So here's a slide of the table of contracts in 2026 to 2027 that is coming up for both of their groups, as well as one from construction safety. Again, these slides will be emailed to you, and this is also being recorded so you can access it again. So these table slides of upcoming 2026 to 2027 contracts, we'll show them for just a few seconds, and so you can refer to them later on. So thank you again, Janice, Perry, and Gary for sharing what you all do in engineering. Up next, representing the teams that plan and manage the port's capital projects are the Aviation Project Management Team and the Waterfront Project Management Team. Up first is Greg Carey from the Aviation Project Management Team. Take it away, Greg.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Emily. Greg Carey, I'm the Assistant Director of Aviation Project Management Group. We can go to the next slide. So Aviation Project Management Group, what do? We do project management. We're responsible to deliver capital projects at SeaTac Airport. We do a little bit in the surrounding area in our noise program, but mostly we're based out of the airport. What do? We help with the planning. We're not the planning department, but we do assist in that. We manage design. We are big on scope, schedule, and budget, and managing those through the duration of a project from the very start to the very end. I have a few IDIQ contracts that will be coming out like probably the beginning of next year. Some of them we may do one contract, possibly two. So we have an IDIQ contract for project management support. And we renew those every few years. It varies depending on what we have going on and coming down the pipe. And another 1 to 2 contracts for commissioning services that we generally renew every 2 to 3 years. Next slide. I think I'm turning it over to our Waterfront Project Management Group.
Yes, thank you, Greg. Good morning. My name is Genevieve Plauraki. I'm the Director of Waterfront Project Management. So we basically are the counterpart to the Aviation Project Management Group. We are a group of project managers and also project control professionals. We manage projects through their entire life cycle, so from the early planning initiation through design, permitting, construction, and closeout. Our projects are really located along the waterfront in the harbor. We do work on marine cargo terminals, cruise terminals, fishing terminals, so T5, T18, Bell Harbor, Smith Cove for the cruise, T91, Fisherman's Terminal. We also do work at marinas. The port also has quite a large park program, and we manage these projects as well, and do a lot of work for the real estate portfolio of the Maritime division. So our purpose is really to ensure that we deliver successfully the capital program for the Maritime division of the port, as well as the Northwest Seaport Alliance, North Harbor, which is Seattle, capital and environmental remediation programs. Typically, we procure quite a few IDIQs on a regular basis. They are, we typically would go out with 2 and 3 contracts for the 2 to 5 million range, and they are renewed every 4 years. We listed here the type of IDIQs that we typically procure for, so docks and diving, recently awarded in 24, buildings and structures, infrastructures, dredging IDIQs, roofing. So the roofing IDIQ is actually currently in the procurement phase. I believe proposals are due on the 8th. In addition to the IDIQs, when we have larger projects, so it's dependent on our capital plan, but I would say maybe once one project specific every other year. For general design services, they would be in the 2 to 4 million range. Other types of IDIQ we procure are our project controllers. So similar 2 to 5 million, renewed every 4 years. The most recent was awarded in 25. We also go for project management and planning IDIQs. We just recently awarded 2 in Q1 of 26, so very recently. And as Perry mentioned earlier, we will sometime go out with geotechnical services, support services. Next slide, please. So an upcoming opportunity on the waterfront is a project that we are actually preparing to procure later this year, probably Q3, Q4 of 26. It's the Marine Maintenance South, so it's a facility located on South Horton Street in Seattle, and it is our vehicle fleet and fleet facility. The project is going to replace the existing facility that you see here in yellow with a new building, about 23,000 square feet, for typical vehicle maintenance activities. So you'll have some maintenance bays, office and storage space. But the project also requires a fairly sizable electrical upgrade. So total project cost currently is slightly under 50 million. The project manager for this project, Kelly Purnell, will be at the event this afternoon. So if you have any question, I would really encourage you to find her and speak to her. Next slide, please. And so here's a slide that kind of combines what we see as upcoming opportunities, both on aviation and waterfront. So you have one for the main terminal improvement that will be probably in Q3 of 27. On our side, as I mentioned, the roofing IDIQ is about to close, so proposal due on later in June 8th. The marine maintenance vehicle fleet facility, we are still haven't completed our acquisition planning, so it could be a project specific, or it might be that this project proceeds as an alternative delivery. But regardless, there will be some design activity and opportunities. So I really encourage you to keep to follow up if you have interest in this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Genevieve, and thank you to Greg before you for sharing about projects in your part of the port universe. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize Greg and Genevieve and their teams, the AV PMG team and the Waterfront PMG project management groups, for their consistent partnership with our diversity and contracting team and their consistent support for women and minority-owned businesses and small businesses. If you've been to our Port Gen First Looks or an Aviation Industry Day or Maritime Industry Day, it has mostly been just their teams and their staff coming out, sharing out their projects. So we really appreciate your partnership. That's a part of what makes today so special is that we have teams like the two PMGs presenting, which you've heard from before, most likely. But the rest of the teams that you're hearing from today are all sharing with this audience of small, diverse businesses for either the first time or for the first time in a long time. And I'm so excited that you'll be hearing from each and every one of them and just appreciative of them taking the time to share what they have with you. Moving along, I'm very excited to present to you the Port's Aviation Environmental and the Maritime Environmental teams, as much of their work is relevant to, and I think of interest to many of the audience here. We will have John speaking first about Aviation Environmental, and then Roy following him with talking about Maritime Environmental programs. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Emily. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Everett. I'm a senior manager in the Aviation Environment and Sustainability Program. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about the work that we do here at the airport. Next slide, please. So this is the org chart for the port environmental, so both the aviation and the maritime organizations. So on the right, the environmental is managed by our senior director, Sandy Kilroy. And then Sarah Auger is the director of the maritime environmental team. Roy will talk a little bit about this more in a minute, but under Sarah, there are 4 groups: the sustainability, habitat and permitting, the stormwater group, and then the remediation group. And then under Sarah Cox at the airport, in the aviation division, you have 3 groups: the sustainability group, the noise program, and then the group that I supervise, the environmental compliance group. So the sustainability group, they are really focused on identifying areas where sustainable initiatives can be input into port processes and port programs and port construction projects. They implement the sustainable evaluation framework. The noise program, managed by Ryan McMullen, they do the noise monitoring around the airport, manage the Part 150 study, as well as doing the sound installation surrounding the airport. And the compliance team that I manage is the largest group and do the majority of the procurement. And under that group, we have 5 programs: the environmental review team that does all the NEPA SEPA work. I'm sure some of you have heard about the Sustainable Airport Master Plan, the SEPA and NEPA work that's been done for that. That is done in that group. There's also the stormwater group that manages the airport's MPDES permit. The hazardous materials program that manages the waste at the airport, the natural resources program, and then also the contaminated sites program. So it's a wide variety of work that goes on in that group. And if you could move to the next slide, please. So who we are, engineers, environmental scientists, and planners. So it runs a wide range of experience. And the main goal really for the compliance team that I manage is to ensure that the airport maintains compliance with the number of permits and rules and laws that we are required to follow in order for the airport to operate. So like I said, this runs from the MPDS permit with the Department of Ecology, industrial wastewater system permit with King County, the BIFI permit, which is our waste permit. We have a number of cleanup sites at the airport. Also, we manage a large area around the airport. Whenever you've flown in and out of SeaTac, the trees that you see around the airport, the majority of that is port owned. We own a large area to the south of the airport where the Otay golf course was located, and we actively manage those areas to be as sustainable and to provide the most amount of stewardship as we can. So really, that's the goal of our program. Like I said, the noise program, they maintain noise monitoring around the airport. And then the sustainability program, they work to input their initiatives throughout the aviation division. And where we operate mostly at the airport, but also the surrounding areas that I described, we also have a habitat site down in Auburn. And in terms of what we procure, there are 29 active professional service contracts, so quite a few. And these range from pretty small for about $12,000 for beekeeping services at the airport, up to $10 million for assessment and remediation for cleanup work with the Department of Ecology. We have a number of other IDIQs that really help support the work that staff in the group are doing. There's just too much work to go around, in effect. We have to be out doing stormwater monitoring during storm events, during construction events. So we maintain a number of contracts that allows people to come on and help us do that. We also have a general on-call environmental contract, an IDIQ for 6.5 million that help support our group in really any way that we need help. So that could be NEPA, SEPA support, cleanup support, sampling support, GIS support. It's a really wide ranging contract, and that contract is expiring this year, and that is the one that will be advertised, I believe, later this year. So with that, I will pass it off to Roy, who will talk a little bit more about the maritime side of things.
Roy, you're on mute.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roy Kuroiwa. I'm with the Maritime Environment and Sustainability Department. I work in the cleanup group, and I want to thank all of you guys for showing up for this great event. Emily has done a fantastic job, and I hope we continue to do these every year. Our maritime environmental programs also consist of 4 departments: sustainability, where we do our climate work; sea level rise, energy and air work; stormwater utility group; permit and compliance, along with habitat restoration; and then the group I'm in is remediation. A big difference, I think, between aviation and maritime is that we do perform most of our work under IDIQs. However, in our cleanup group, most of you are probably aware, we have quite a bit of MACA and CERCLA, state and federal cleanup projects in and around Seattle, in particular along the Lower Duwamish Waterway. And so we issue a lot of our work through project-specific contracts, not IDIQs. We've got about 15 active project-specific contracts working or online right now. I encourage you to come find me this afternoon. I'll be there, and we can talk more about our programs, our projects, and our contracts. Maritime environmental work from our North Harbors, which consists of Shilshole Bay and Fisherman's Terminal, down south into Tukwila, along the Lower Duwamish, and across Elliott Bay. Thank you. Next slide, you want to show the summary of our contracts, or some that are available. So you can see here that quite a bit of our work is done under IDIQs, although I would say the majority of our contracts come out of the remediation group. And I believe we have 3 IDIQs that are going out this year for advertising. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Roy. Next slide, please. And so this is just a snapshot of some of those contracts that Roy and John had mentioned earlier. Again, these slides will be sent out to you as well as this recording, so do not worry. Next slide, please. So thank you, John and Roy, again. This is your first Port Gen, and Roy, you beat me to it. I hope it's not the last, and it sounds like it won't be. And for context, John and Roy had shared about the other teams under larger environmental, aviation, and maritime umbrellas. And the question I had is like, what about the contracts in the other teams? And we brought John and Roy out to y'all because they have the most contracts within their respective groups. And that, yeah, they did not disappoint. So thank you both so much. And now we're ready to move on to our last two teams, who I also hope this is their first time, but not their last time with a Port Gen event. We've got our aviation planning team, Tom Hooper, who will be speaking to that, whose work at their core is problem solving capacity and operational issues. And then following Tom, we've got Heather and Ken talking about aviation facilities and infrastructure, which is involved in the full life cycle of the airport facility and infrastructure. Tom, would you please kick us off with this last section of the A&E across the port before we go into the Q&As?
Thank you, Emily. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Hooper. I'm the Assistant Director of Aviation Planning. The little background, there are 3 departments under Facilities and Capital Programs under our director, Carrie Stevens. One is Facilities and Infrastructure, who you'll hear from next, led by Ken Warren. Another is Capital Programs, led by Mandy Segoras, and then Planning, led by me. I manage the IDIQ contracts for our group, which are open to any department within the port, but are primarily used by Capital Programs and Planning. And I'm also the manager of the Sustainable Airport Master Plan. You can go to the next slide. So as Emily mentioned, at the core of our work, planning is problem solving operational and facilities capacity issues. And we do that through, at a very high level, project concept development and alternatives evaluation. We identify projects through our technical analysis and then turn them over to Capital Programs, who take those concepts through preliminary design and shepherd them through the capital process. And then ultimately, if they're approved, those projects are turned over to PMG to be constructed. And so while we do conduct a fair amount of technical analysis in-house, and we have a lot of subject matter expertise here at the port, we do rely heavily on consultants to help us with our planning. Primarily, our primes on our IDIQ contracts are true planning firms. That is their bread and butter, but they typically have, on our contracts, 10 to 15 subs to fill in the gaps for architectural, engineering, and specialty services. We just went through a round of procurement for our IDIQ contracts. We've done 3 rounds in the past 10 years, and our cadence has been to do 2 $7.5 million contracts. We renew them about, every 3 to 4 years. Occasionally, we do project-specific contracts. We just awarded a contract for an electricity demand supply study. So that's it on this slide. That's good background. On to the next, please. This is a listing. It's not a complete listing, but it is a listing from our last contracts that we just awarded. That shows you kind of the typical scope areas. They cover all the key functional areas that we study, airside, terminal, landside, cargo, airline and airport support. You see there's a lot of different expertise involved in these different scope areas. And if, as I said, we just did a procurement for our 2 contracts and signed them in January. But on occasion, there can be an opportunity to bring on another firm if the teams don't have a specific expertise that they need to handle a planning study. And we always, we have always met our WIMBY goals of 15%, if not exceeding them. Yeah, so that's all I've got. Turn it on to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, my name is Heather Karch, and I am the architecture manager within the Facilities and Infrastructure Group at SCA. I myself, as well as Ken, are representing the large group that includes a number of different discipline specific subject matter experts. As you can see, it includes architects and then a whole range of different engineers from civil, electrical, mechanical, fire protection. We also have a large signage team, a utility management group, and including also some specialty groups of electrical communications, accessibility, and BIM professional, and a BIM professional right now, just one. And so overall, F&I acts as the quote unquote owner for the airport. So we're representing owner interests. Similar to planning, we propose projects typically related to renewal and replacement. We're really thinking long-term life cycle assessment of the facility, trying to ensure its operation long-term, and as well as thinking about the future and keeping it up to date and meeting our vision for both aesthetics and operations that aligns with kind of our overall goals at SCA, including kind of being innovative and staying on top of current knowledge. So we have a regulatory requirement, multiple regulatory requirements that we fill, similar to environmental, just different focuses. And we are focused just at the airport campus that includes not just the main terminal buildings, but as well as we work with partners in different departments for the other buildings as well. And why we're doing all of this, I think I kind of already started it, but ensuring the continuous operation of our airport and providing an elevated passenger and staff experience that's inclusive and welcoming to all. And we do welcome all of you, hoping that we can work with you in the future. Next slide. What we procure. So I've broken it between architecture and engineering, even though there are some overlaps in terms of standards development and things like that. Overall, everything we do in F&I ties back to asset management, really trying to ensure that our assets are working long-term and that we're keeping abreast with all regulations and creating that best, continuing the best facility and roadways and everything tied with it, everything outside of the facility for that overall experience. But as you can see, with Clean Buildings Act, we're starting to see an increase in the number of assessments related to that, not just to the facility, but through different areas as well. We have a need for laser scanning and under engineering, multiple studies, energy audits, wastewater sampling, commissioning, confidence testing. The list goes on, arc flash, regulatory evaluations, and just overall program support for our asset management. And I'm sure there's even more than that, but that's where we stopped. As new regulations come about, we're always just trying to ensure we're meeting those, and we often need help with that, just with the number of staff we have and our support of capital programs as well. Means we only have so much time in the day. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Ken to talk a little bit more about the specific contracts. I look forward to seeing you this afternoon.
Hello, everyone. All right, you saw a great picture of Heather in front of her background. Now you can see me on the outside of the airport. So what kind of things does F&I procure and the amount of contracts, as Heather talked about? We have a lot of different types of contracts that are really more on the operational side as far as the mandates and regulatory type of contracts. We had a utility master plan a couple of years ago that really talked about how we were going to develop into the future the next 15 to 30 years. That was a 3-year contract. Smoke control testing, asset management, and then PCR and fire sprinkler in our big BIM contract. Then we have some IDIQ contracts where we leverage PMG and other contracts, as you heard about from some of the other groups that spoke about. So you'll see that what we really do like to do here at the port is we will leverage other contracts that are within the port to try to just utilize and maximize our contracts before we go out and get new contracts. We'll take the next one. Next slide, please. All right, and so what's coming up? This is the exciting part for you. We are out, I believe right now, advertising, or we are very close to be advertising for an IDIQ for engineering retro commissioning services. I think the 1.95, that should be heading out here very soon. We also have a retro commissioning for a Cat 2 that one is out, I believe, next week. So we have a couple of retro commissioning. The retro commissioning that's out next week is for clean buildings, and then we have a longer one that we're setting up on that IDIQ. Stock pavement, project specific. So you can see these are a little bit smaller contracts, but we're really looking towards small business and WIMBY, those type of partner contracts, some structural tieback, parking garage, more clean building facility assessments. So we do a lot of assessments within F&I, ARC Flash, which is electrical protection, dam safety. We do have some dams out here at the airport, which is exciting if you're into the structural piece and into dams. So we do some of that work as well. As also, Heather's looking for some acoustic work. So if we have any acoustic consultants that are out there, we're looking for you for some sound advice here at the airport. So as we are here in facilities and infrastructure, we are your facilities management team for CTAC. And we are always looking to make our airport a little bit better, looking towards those travelers to make a better experience for the customers from all the way from the curb to your airport seat, looking for a better experience for you, passenger. On to you, Emily. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ken. All right, so that wraps up the formal presentation part of our first section, A&E across the port. We do have a few minutes to go through a few Q&As. Thank you so much for those of y'all who have submitted questions in that during the course of the presentations. I would like to surface a few that I think a lot of folks might be interested in. The first one actually is going to be going to Ken. Ken, you had mentioned a few smaller procurements, category 1, 2. How do you and your team find firms for those smaller acquisitions?
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of folks. We're about 52 strong here in facilities and infrastructure. So we do have a lot of folks that have joined us or from the consulting community. So we do have a lot of knowledge. Obviously, sponsoring projects, our sponsorship within the overall capital program is about $600 million a year of the $800 to $900 million a year of year-over-year airport capital program. So we do review a lot of drawings, and we are in touch with the consulting community in and around Seattle and the regional area. But our real focus is, for these smaller contracts is getting to know the small businesses and the WIMBY firms in the area. So from our team that we do know here locally, talking to that community of the larger firms that is doing the larger capital work, really trying to do that outreach through our contacts, as well as performing in events such as this to try to get to know the WIMBY and the small businesses and disadvantaged businesses so that we can try to leverage and achieve those results. We do also, as Tom noted, a 15% goal. We also have those same goals in our department, and we achieve those year over year.
Thank you so much, Ken. And yeah, so Ken, Heather, and Tom are going to be at the networking at Pier 69. Thank you. We'll see you there. Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Another question that came up in the Q&A came from Glenn. What is the Port of Seattle doing to assist veteran-owned businesses? I think, Lawrence, if you could address that very important question, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I'll tell you that in our latest policy directive that was passed in 2025, veteran-owned businesses are called out in addition to small and diverse businesses. And with that, veteran-owned businesses are afforded the same support, outreach, technical assistance, on-project support, such as like troubleshooting. So we do that quite a bit and try to help, better assist in project delivery and folks, get some of those issues worked out. So just know that if someone is on our project and they're veteran-owned businesses, you can reach out to our office and get the same support that we offer to women and minority businesses and small businesses. And so, again, that support is afforded to veteran-owned businesses as well.
Thanks, Lawrence. And we just had another really WIMBY program question. So we'll keep Lawrence on for this. About what WIMBY criteria does the Port of Seattle follow? Is it from the OMWBE for Washington State? What qualifies as WIMBY for us at the port?
Yeah, good question. And those are questions I believe that you should certainly ask of all public entities, because every entity is going to do something a little bit different. Here at the Port of Seattle, we allow for self-identification through attestation. And so just keep that in mind. We very much support and value certification, and we still go to OMWBE, which is the state unified certifying provider, to look for firms, and we encourage folks to look for firms. I honestly believe that's the best directory that's out there, because it does have information about capabilities and scope and such. But for the Port of Seattle, we do allow for self-identification. And that criteria is that the business is owned and controlled by a woman or minority, 51% or more.
Thank you, Lawrence. And then this question, actually, I think might be pretty pertinent to folks. Maybe Roy can answer this, since Roy had mentioned both IDIQ and project specific. But I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of other folks would want to know, what determines if work will be procured through an IDIQ, an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, versus a project-specific contract?
Typically for us, it's about scope and the estimated contract amount. Indefinite IDIQs tend to be smaller work orders issued through service directives, shorter time frame. Project specific for our work is typically to meet the scope of work required under a state or federal order. And they tend to be very large contracts, anywhere from $500 to $3 or $4 million per contract, and could last anywhere from 3 to 7, 8 years.
Awesome. Thanks, Roy.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you all of you who submitted questions and answers. In the interest of time, we do need to go get our panel discussion started. My request to the presenters is take a look at the Q&A. If there's one that you can answer, please do. Otherwise, for those of you who asked us questions, please come find us at the networking later today. All right, next slide. Okay, so that was the first part of our presentation, A&E across the port. Okay, we had a lot of information coming at us from all these amazing teams across the port. We are now switching gears to hear from small and diverse businesses, folks who have actually been consultants here or are consultants here at the port. At the end of this next few 45 or so minutes, I'm hoping that our audience, I see we've got 244 folks who have signed on, who are listening to this. Thank you so much for being here. I'm hoping that you all, after this panel discussion, will walk away with a better understanding of what working at the port involves, what it takes to get on a project at the port, and what it takes to be successful on a project at the port as well. So without further ado, let's bring on our panel of 5 incredible businesses. Hello, everyone. And then I think we're good for the next slide. So joining us today, I've got 5 businesses that I'm so excited that you'll be able to hear from. They are a mix of PM services, an architecture firm, as well as 2 engineering firms as well. But I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, telling us about their business and a brief summary of their experience working with the port. And so we'll get started with Letty. Letty, would you please kick us off?
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily. I founded Geodesic Studios about 5 years ago with the intent to provide project management and construction management services. My almost 20 years in the industry is comprised of fairly well-rounded experience. I've been in the shoes of what I consider the 4 branches of a core project team: a designer, a contractor, design builder, an owner, or an owner's representative. Being able to draw on this real-time knowledge has allowed me to effectively communicate and establish trust in partnering early. I care deeply about the work I do and carefully consider the projects and teams I'm hoping to be a part of, which I'm sure many of you do on the call today. You'll hear a through line throughout the panel today about how important relationships are, and I can attest to that. My trusted partnership with Chris, who is on the panel with me today, is built from working in the industry together for years. We pursued the PM services contract we are on now at the airport because of our experience in the trenches in a very similar, complex, multi-phased project. It's been fantastic working with airport stakeholders who maintain and operate this facility, and I'm happy to see so much interest in the event today so we can continue to support them in the future. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Chris Wong.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Letty. I'm Chris Wong. I'm co-founder and principal of Richmond Construction Consulting. Our company specializes in providing PM/CM services in the aviation sector. We've worked with the port since 2022 and provide PM services both on a project-specific contract that Letty had alluded to, and then as well as a subcontractor on the port's PM services IDIQ contracts. I'll turn it over to Eric.
Thank you very much, Chris. My name is Eric Roller. I've been with Shrewsbury for over 23 years. We're actually celebrating 25 years in business in September, and we're very grateful for that. Shrewsbury is a national DB/MB firm providing civil engineering, and our newest line is MEP services, landscape architecture and PM/CM services. We actually started working at SCA on airfield engineering on-calls in 2019. We also began working with Jacobs in 2020 on the airfield program, and then also leveraged that with Jacobs as well on the Concourse C expansion at SEA. We also are working for the last 5 years with KPFF on the PM IDIQ, and I've done some work on the PM IDIQs with Jacobs as well. Our latest project that we're working on at SEA is really the South Concourse Evolution Design. And we're also with my partner, Chris here, not Chris, sorry, Rob, my apologies, on the 2027-2031 airfield program with HNTB. And I'll hand it over to Rob.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning, everybody. Rob Millar. I'm with HNTB. I'm representing a prime consultant that does work for the Port of Seattle. I am part of HNTB's Aviation Service Group, and I sit in our Bellevue, Washington office. HNTB is fortunate to have been able to work with the Port of Seattle, and particularly out at SeaTac Airport since the 1990s on a whole variety of projects. Airside engineering, landside engineering, architecture, MEP systems, ramp services like boarding bridges and fueling systems. And within the last few years, quite a few construction management task orders. And that's just a quick summary of HNTB. I think I'll just turn it over to Alex at this point.
Thanks, Rob. I'm Alex Reluda, managing partner here at Reluda Architects. We're in Pioneer Square. We've been doing work at SEA and Waterfront for over since 2010. We were founded in 2002. We're an MBE, DBE, SCS, and SBE firm. Our core mission is transforming architecture through the power of collaboration, diversity, and inclusion. We have 50 employees that represent 13 different ethnicities, and 10 different languages can be spoken in our office, with our core values of integrity, sustainability, social responsibility, diversity, and central to that, respect. And we live these core values every day in our office and the projects we work on. Projects that we're doing currently at the Port of Seattle include air cargo renovations. We're on the South Concourse Evolution team, Sea Concourse expansion team, and we're also working with the Waterfront on Terminal 91 uplands redevelopment. Our project types are quite vast, K-12, higher ed, municipal, solid waste, transportation, aviation, marine, multifamily, multicultural, and we have private clients in the transportation, aerospace divisions. And later on, we'll talk about, the relationships that we have formed. As Letty said, that relationships are core to developing projects and growing the business. So back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much for introducing yourselves and your work here at the Port. I think we can get rid of this panelist slide. It's really to give y'all, the audience, a snapshot of what this panel has done. But now I'm so excited to see all of your gorgeous faces in high resolution. And I think we're ready to get this panel started with the first question. I think a lot of folks, we've got 248 folks who are signed on, would like to know what did the process look like for you to get on a team for work at the Port? I think, more specifically, how did you get your foot in the door? And Eric, I'd love to start with you. What did that look like for you?
Thank you very much. Folks, if you haven't realized, the secret is relationships. No surprise there. Establishing meaningful relationships, what I call mutually beneficial relationships. Not transactional, but meaningful, mutually beneficial. It also takes a lot of time to get to know your partners. So it takes, it's hard work. You got to meet them. You got to meet them at the place, have coffee, have lunch, whatever. Also, it takes time to meet the Port of Seattle folks. Now, I first got connected with HNTB and Jacobs and KPFF. That's how I actually started getting opportunities. Shrewsbury started getting opportunities at SEA. I mean, I can give you a small history. We leveraged relationships at then with Jacobs to actually gain opportunities at SEA on the 2020-2025 airfield pavement program. Now, I worked with HNTB in Indianapolis. This was where our headquarters is located. And I leveraged that relationship for someone who moved from Indianapolis to Seattle to get an opportunity on the SEA roadway improvements project, and then got connected to Rob, and then got connected to the aviation team. So basically, you know, relationships, also know your value. What are you bringing to the table? Remember I said at the top of my presentation here, it should not be transactional, it should be meaningful. So know your value, know what you're bringing to the table. Thank you, Emily.
That's awesome, Eric. Yeah, and I think something we had talked about in preparation for this that you had mentioned is you talked about Denver, I think, and Indianapolis. And I think part of it was doing excellent work there. You know, it's one thing to have the relationships and for somebody to know you. It's another for them to be like, oh, I know Shrewsbury does great work. And that's why, like, I know them and I know that they do great work. I think that was something you brought up that I think also makes a lot of sense in addition to that relationship part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Alex, do you have what did the process look like for y'all to get on a team? How did y'all get your foot in the door?
Yeah, so our first contract with the port was in 2010. So you can imagine a small business coming out of the 2008 recession trying to get projects at the different agencies, and it wasn't easy. But what I did was what you're doing now. You are coming to these networking events, you're doing face-to-face time with the client, the owner, one-on-one sessions with project managers and the primes. And the landscape of procurement has changed now. It's no longer just design, bid, build. It's now design, build, a GCCM, progressive design, build, all the different procurement methods. So not only should you meet with the clients, but also with general contractors, the large ones that are doing work at the airport now. And then also the large design firms, meet with them as well and get to know them. Let them know what your capabilities are. The capability statement is really important. Summation of your capabilities, what your expertise are, what your certifications are, and you can leave that behind. But just don't leave it behind. Follow up with them. Some of the firms like ourselves will do follow-up meetings with small businesses that would like to do work with us because we prime work not just at the airport but on the waterfront side. And so once a month we'll have meet and greets where we'll bring these firms into our office and they can present to our principals and project managers to see if there's a fit. So yeah, I just say, you know, the more exposure you have to the client, and the clients being the port, general contractors, and the primes, the better, because there's so much work out there as they presented. You know, we've completed probably over 80 projects now with the port on marine and aviation side, and it ranges from IDIQ projects to TSA training facilities to restroom upgrades. So yeah, the workload is vast, and if you have certain expertise, it might be ADA, it might be building envelope. Make sure that you let the primes know that, you know, we have this experience.
Thanks, Alex. 2010. I think on the other side of the coin, I'm curious to hear from Chris as a slightly newer business, what that process looked like for you.
Sure. Thanks, Emily. You know, getting our first contract with the port in 2022, it was kind of piggybacking on the theme of relationships. Letty and I had a pre-existing relationship, you know, before we independently started our own companies, working on projects as colleagues or across the table, owner, contractor, etc. we had developed, our relevant experience and technical qualifications to be able to pursue work at a facility like SEA or like aviation specific. But we're not a local firm to the Pacific Northwest, and we leverage the Vendor Connect portal, which is a resource that the port provides to be able to make connections with other primes that are local that may be certainly unfamiliar with us, as we were not a local entity. And so we were able to, cold reach out, again, piggyback on what Alex is saying, having our statement of qualifications ready to be able to present to those other partners makes it more appealing for them to potentially partner with a firm like ours.
I love hearing the words vendor connects. There are no sweeter sounds when you mentioned vendor connect. I feel like it's really important for folks to be able to hear that from other businesses and not just me and our team in diversity and contracting. It is our contracting portal here at the port. That is where a ton of information is. And we'll have more plugs for it for a next step. But thank you for that plug, Chris. I did not pay him to say that, though. Awesome. Okay, amazing. I think we're ready for our next question. And this is for the firms that are primes or have primed. What are you all looking for in partners? Or another way to say it is, what should businesses who want to be a subconsultant with you know? Rob, do you want to take a stab at this first?
As a prime consultant, we're always looking for partner firms that would help round out our team. Oftentimes, when we're looking for subconsultant partners, we're looking for a firm that could bring like a specialized skill or a particular service or some experience that maybe HNTB doesn't have, or we're not necessarily strong or known for. That's probably the biggest thing. We also might just be looking for a firm to add some additional capacity to round out the needs of a particular project. Alex at the start mentioned sort of a summary of what Reluda's company values are. So that also, when we're looking for partner firms, we would be looking for firms that really align with our corporate values of really developing long-term relationships with a client, really a dedication to quality work and some of the other values that HNTB shares. And the other aspect of a partner firm that is really helpful is if the sub can bring some type of relationship with the client or the project, or some understanding, maybe to fill some gaps in our project understanding or our relationship matrix. So that's just a few things that we might consider when we're looking for a partner firm.
Thanks so much for that, Rob. Alex, do you have anything to add of what y'all are looking for?
I think Rob pretty much summed it up, but I would say, when we have the one-on-ones or we bring the subconsultants to our office, we want them to speak to their expertise. If they specialize in anything, whether it's, again, roofing, building envelope, ADA upgrades, even MEP, experience, not just, in aviation or marine, but other municipalities that you can show us the work that you've done. And then also we look at capacity, making sure that if we award you a project and make you part of the team, that, internally you have the capacity to perform. And it's not just on the engineer architect side, but also your administrative side, because doing work at SEA or with the port requires a certain amount of administrative skills or support, whether it's invoicing or filling out forms. And all of that, working with the different committees can be daunting. But the one thing I can say about the port, and especially SEA, is that the project managers are very helpful. They can walk walk you through the process and make sure they want everybody to be successful. If we are, then they are. And then, you know, if you have an understanding of how things work at the port, you know, the standards, the port process, that always helps. But, you know, we always and can act as mentors as well, understanding that, you know, it's a steep learning curve, and we can teach you how to navigate through those administrative tasks that you might not have expertise or experience in.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, and that mentorship piece, I think it'll come around later, but that reminds me, yeah, you were a mentor on our Business Accelerator program for the past 2 years. I know HNTP has been involved too. But yeah, these are the types of amazing mentors that you might be able to be paired up with if you are selected to be a part of our Business Accelerator program. More to come on that, but thank you so much for that, Alex. I think the administrative piece is a really good segue for our next question. And I know Letty's got thoughts on this, but that question is, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice before starting with work with the port, what would it be?
Thanks, Emily. My piece of advice is for awareness and understanding, and maybe even a little bit of acceptance to what Alex alluded to, the amount of administrative work, process, and documentation that is required to work at the airport. I promise it's for good reason. Speaking specifically to the services at the airport, we are working in a 24/7 operational terminal. We have employees, the public is there. And often our projects are publicly funded, either through local funds or federal funds, which requires an additional level of documentation and accountability for some of the scope and cost for that work. So the good news is that we have resources. Use your resources. I promise you, you do not have to reinvent the wheel. The folks here have really good processes and templates that you can use. I would recommend having this question as part of your onboarding process when you receive notice to proceed and you're working with your contract administrator. They can make sure that you get the right people who you need to talk to and access to these online tools so your staff can seamlessly integrate into their project roles.
Awesome. Thank you, Letty. Chris, I think you also had some thoughts on this. I'm going to be going around the room for this one, so the rest of y'all watch out, but we'll go with you, Chris.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, so what we can share is, you know, we're a sub on a PM services IDIQ. You know, with the IDIQs, they're indefinite, and you don't exactly know when your name's going to be called upon to have an opportunity to provide services, but that's really kind of incumbent on each of the firms to show up at these networking sessions. You know, get some face time with the port staff that have, you know, the insight into what's coming down the pipeline, like the port staff presented today. Really gives you the insight, but, you know, being able to have a relationship with them, whether you can send them an email or give them a call to, hey, can I stop by the port, or can we have a, you know, 15-20 minute call, and just can I know what's coming down the pipe in, you know, next 9 to 12 months or even further. We know things change, but, you know, without having a kind of a relationship with them, that kind of outreach can be a little bit more difficult or more daunting. But I think that's really important to be able to, you know, help once you actually get the work, you're awarded a contract, but then also you having to find out when the opportunities are going to coming so you can plan your resources accordingly.
Thank you, Chris. I think we should play a game. Every time relationship comes up, we all take a sip of tea or coffee. I think we would be very caffeinated up. Thank you so much for that, Chris. Alex, what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself looking back?
Just one?
Let's take two or three, but okay. Like the meatiest ones.
Oh gosh, I would say understanding the port way. So understanding the contracts. You know, you think, contracts, I do want to get the job, but there's certain things in the contracts that you should be aware of, such as your limits of liability. What are the requirements as a prime, as a sub? What are the deliverable requirements? So understand that, understanding the standards, whether it's BIM, ACC, understanding, what the port is going to expect from me, so that I can deliver. As Chris was saying, you want to deliver and be ready for it, because once you are awarded that contract and it's go, you don't want to spend time having to learn the contracts and learn standards. You want that in place so that you can actually do the work of design. Port can be challenging, just like other municipalities that have their processes, but understanding also from the prime, what are my different reviews that I'm going to have, whether I'm going to have design review, PES, MUST, all these different acronyms that are committees within the airport building department that you have to submit to. So there's a lot, and even just something as getting badged at the airport, and getting those credentials. So be ready, because I know when I got my first project at the port, it was go right away because of the schedule. So that's it.
That was awesome. Rob, what do you have to add?
Just building off what Alex was saying, Alex was hinting at some of the organizational structure at the port. And so my advice is really take a deep dive, get to know the port. It is a complex organization, and the port manages some really complex facilities that they take the time to get to know them. I actually learned a lot today. I've been working with the port for a long time, but you could see from some of those org charts that were presented, it's really a great opportunity to sort of start understanding some components of how the port is organized, how they operate. And there are other groups too that weren't listed. Operations and maintenance and security and CPO all come to mind. There's other groups that you could get to know. Culturally too, the port has a really strong, really robust culture of collaboration and engagement and consensus building throughout a project development. And my piece of advice is be aware of that. And it does take time. It takes time to make decisions. It takes time to work through different options. It takes time to coordinate with all those different stakeholder groups that are a part of all that decision making. At the end, it pays off because you get a project that everyone has bought into, and ideally minimize the number of surprises when you get into building something. But in the design development side, it can take some time. And Alex mentioned some of the contractual stuff. I guess that's my other piece of advice is understand the port's rules. They do have a number of processes, a number of rules when it comes to contracting, when it comes to getting individuals approved to work on a contract. Get your documentation in order so that the contracting, the rate negotiations, all that stuff can be as smooth as possible.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob. Last but certainly not least, Eric, I think you also have some thoughts that are related to time. What, in terms of what is one piece of advice you'd give?
Absolutely. If I were to go back and give a young Eric a piece of advice, it'll be adding on to what Rob just said, which is be familiar with the processes at the port. Take a deep dive, understand and lean on your partner firms, your primes, to understand. The whole process takes very, very long. So you got to be patient. And finally, what I would say is in the process, while you're going through the process and you're making decisions, please ensure that you're making the best business decision to ensure that your company is profitable. That would be my advice to me, the young Eric.
Always, always. I mean, if you're not looking out for yourself, like that's your responsibility. And I love that. Appreciate that. Great advice from all of you. I think we're ready for our next question, which is what are some of the benefits or most rewarding aspects that you've found and discovered while working on a port project with your particular prime? Chris, can we get started with you?
Sure. Oftentimes when you mention you work at an airport or on an airport project, people ask, "Oh, do you get a flight benefit?" Yeah, that's the most frequent question I think any of us get asked. Do you get tickets? And the short answer to that is no. We don't. We don't work. Unfortunately, don't work for an airline. We work with our port client and partners. But the other kind of aspect of it is that so many of your friends and family get at some point in time will get to experience a project you worked on in terms of like go through the facility, they travel, and then are reminded of, oh, let me reach out to so and so, and they've had this project looks great, or they just have a really positive experience from the project you've contributed to, and that's always really heartwarming to hear after all the hard work that goes into delivering projects at an airport.
That's awesome. Yeah, soft don't get a flight discount, obviously, either. Just want to put that out there. Yeah, I'll open up the floor. What brings you to working with a port, being a consultant with a port? What keeps you coming back? For some of you, Chris had started off us amazingly. And we'll open up the floor to the rest of you.
Well, I can share, specifically working with Chris, we chased a project that we had very good experience for, that we felt like we could perform. We teamed with some local firms, to Rob's point, who kind of rounded us out. And I think that just helps to bring, other ideas, new ideas. We're consistently problem solving here in the work we do. And so having those new ideas from the different partners, I think has helped us take from experiences, lessons learned, maybe things that have bit us in the past, and be able to apply that forward here. Specifically, I'm thinking about stakeholder engagement. Chris and I learned a lot about doing that in airline tenant relocations, and hopefully I was able to pull that forward and translate that here at CTAC.
I guess I could go next, and following off of what Letty said about problem solving. As architects and designers, that's where we find inspiration and excitement, is to solve problems and to find the challenges and be able to provide alternatives that we can give to the port, that they may select a direction and pathway. And with SCA growing and evolving and changing, there's really no time to get bored once you start working at SCA or even on the waterfront. But on a personal note, whenever I travel with my family and we're at SCA, and I can point out to my kids, oh, we worked on that, we did this, I designed that. It's great. It's a good feeling. And yeah, they get tired of hearing it, but hey, it's what I do, and we're very proud of the work that we do. And we know that the little things we do really make a difference. We worked on gender neutral restrooms and restroom upgrades at Concourse B, C, and D, and just to see, that how they're utilized, and it makes a difference in how people travel through the airport. And it could be a retail dining facility, and seeing people use it and being active. I mean, it's a 24/7 facility, and it's what for a designer and architect, it's like being in Disneyland. It's just so much going on.
Yeah, that's also what I heard from our panel from Construction Industry Day. It's like there's never a dull moment. You're always learning something. Something is always keeping you on your toes. But to that point about pride of like, oh, I worked on this. Just quick interlude. In Pier 69 on the 3rd floor, there's a mural or some kind of like painting. And somebody told me this, and I had to check it out. There is a thumbprint that is very artfully a part of this. You couldn't be able to tell. It's like a peacock feather, and it's the eye of the peacock feather, and it's somebody's thumbprint. It is the worker, some worker who was working on this piece, who actually left their physical, literal thumbprints. And I would love to meet this person. And I feel like that's like the same kind of pride and kind of achievement of being able, I left my thumbprint here at the airport. I left my thumbprint here at the pier. That's what Chris and Alex reminded me of. If you all come out here, Pier 69 and the networking, I can show you that one. It's awesome. Okay, short interlude aside, we've got 2 more questions and I think about 10 more minutes for this. But this question is one that I'm skipping ahead one, which is, what did it take for your company, which started off as a small business, to become a prime? I think Alex or Chris?
Chris, you want to go first?
Sure. I guess we have a little unconventional way. Actually, we are a small business. We started the business in 2020, and whether it was naive or not, like we submitted our first proposal as a prime in partnering with Letty and Geodesic Studios. It really stemmed on our confidence and belief in our technical qualifications and previous experience, having worked together on similar aviation projects. Although not local here at SEA, having experience at prior airports in San Francisco, that we felt confident in our ability to deliver a project for C. And so we submitted a proposal, and we were fortunate to be selected by and recognized by the Port of Seattle for our basically that experience, and that shone through in our technical proposal. I think one of the other things that was how the port supports small businesses was that we were just getting started. We didn't have our full certification by the OWMBE, but we were both self-identified firms, and that was recognized by the port, and that removes, one of the administrative hurdles for smaller companies to be able to pursue some of those types of projects.
Yeah. Following what Chris was saying, you can be a small business and still prime projects, especially if you have specialization or expertise in a certain area. When you go after an RFQ and you think of all the designers, architects, engineers that have long list of experience doing work at SEA, it could be discouraging. But if you have the expertise, you have the experience and capability to run the show, and they see that, then you'll get to the next stage of the interview. For us, it started out with IDIQs and on-call. Our first on-call was actually on the Waterfront side and built from there, and then eventually got an IDIQ at SEA and then build from there. And like I said earlier, the procurement methods have changed. There's a variety of methods of procuring projects. And so one of our first prime projects at SEA was actually a design build, and it was one of the exit lane breach control facilities at SEA. And then from there, other prime projects included TSA training facilities. And so there's so many different projects that you can chase at the port. And if you see something that really this fits within my wheelhouse, also talk to consultants that will support you, because if you're an architect, you're going to need structural MEP, and look at subs that have done work at the port that can support you, because their work is just as important as the architectural portion of the work. Yeah, so I started out as a sub and on call, and that made that transition smooth where I learned the ropes and doing work at the port and then made that transition to prime. But I straddled both. I still sub on some projects where the scope of work is more engineering intense involved, and we provide the architectural support. And it could be code study, could be ADA, could be building envelope. But like I said, there's so many things going on at SCA that, you know, you can probably find your niche somewhere.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, part of what you said is, yeah, meeting other firms that you might be able to team up with. I know for these networking events, people are really excited to meet our project managers and our primes who are tabling, which makes a lot of sense, but also makes a lot of sense to network with all of the other small and diverse businesses and other businesses that are attending these events just like you. You never know where something might lead or where something might be complementary. Okay, I'm very sad about this, but we are starting to wrap up this amazing discussion on this incredible panel. But before we do, I know we had a lot of information just on this panel, but over the course of these 2 hours, I want to go around the room and ask our amazing panelists here, what is one takeaway that you want the 200 plus folks who are listening in on this conversation, what do you want them to walk away from this conversation with? We'll start with you, Letty.
Thanks, Emily. Again, this is not a glamorous answer. However, it's simple and really easy to implement. Documentation is key to success. It's a communication tool while you're on the project with the port, with the building officials, and it won't last long after we leave. If anyone's looked for as-built, they know what I'm talking about. Closing the loop with all necessary parties helps to build trust and establish the lasting relationships that we talked about.
Thank you, Letty. And then we'll have Eric and then Rob.
Thank you, Emily. So for me, when given the opportunity, do good work. Internally at Shrewsbury, we call it best in class. So you work hard to get an opportunity, but that's just getting the opportunity. When you get it, perform at the highest level, best in class.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
My, I guess, takeaway is building off a little bit. You've heard a lot about relationships and building relationships, but my advice is be in it for the long haul. Take the time to build the relationships, to understand the port, to understand the people that are behind the projects and the facilities themselves. Understand what's important to them, and take the time. It can be a long haul, but it will pay off.
Thanks, Rob. Alex, and then Chris.
Yeah, you know, there was something that we brought up earlier that I forgot to bring up, and it was very helpful, I think, for some of my mentees that I mentored to be able to do work at the port and have now joined my team on some of our projects, is take advantage of the mentor protege program that SCA has. Learn from primes or even subs that are doing work at SCA or even on the marine side. And, you know, that will shorten the amount of time that, you know, understanding contracts, the administrative, the process. We did not have that when I started doing work at the port. So I would strongly recommend taking advantage of that.
Thanks, Alex.
I guess I have the pleasure of somewhat wrapping up for the panel. You know, the port is a great partner for the entire WMBE community, primes, subs combined. I think they're fair with their assessments of things and just working with them contractually. Yeah, it's a partnership on both sides. And you know, developing. I think Rob has Rob and HNTB have a longer relationship. We're hoping to, you know, in 20 plus years that have had that same successful type of partnership over that period of time as a company and organization. When Letty and I met, 15, somewhere between 12 and 15 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to be starting a business and then us pursuing work like this. And so I want to just wrap on the theme of like the relationship aspect of this is really instrumental in, I think, all of our success.
So well said. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, that wraps up our panel discussion. Thank you, Letty. Thank you, Chris, Eric, Rob, and Alex for not only sharing your time, but some of that really hard-won knowledge that you have with this audience. So really appreciate you all being on this panel and looking forward to seeing all of you later today at the networking. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
So that wraps up our panel, and we've got next steps. We've got a few minutes to cover a few more slides about, okay, you've got this information. What do you do now? Some of it has been hinted at, like the Business Accelerator program, but I'm not going to steal the thunder of my colleague who will be coming up and talking with you next. Kelvin Donkwa, who I'm sure every one of you has heard from, that's why you're able to sign on to here, is going to walk us through what you can do next and what to expect later this afternoon. Kelvin?
Oh, thanks so much, boss. I have the esteemed pleasure of closing out this incredible morning with each of you. Thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you to all of our presenters, our incredible panelists as well, for giving us just such valuable information on how to contract or how to get to the next step and putting yourself in position to contract with the port. But yeah, I am so excited about this. My name is Kelvin. I am the Diversity in Contracting Community Engagement and Training Program Specialist. I'm also known as the email person. So if you're on this call, it's probably because you've received an email from me. But these are the next steps. But I almost want to characterize these slides of like how to capitalize on all this information that we were just given. And so I'm just going to be going into what to expect or what your day should look like maybe after this, and also what this afternoon will look like as well. So immediate next steps are, hey, put yourself in position to be seen and to see solicitations through our contracting portal, Vendor Connect. Make sure to register your business on Vendor Connect, include multiple contacts, I would always say, as many NAICS codes that are pertinent to your firm, your certifications, and all of the work types that you like to work as well. Vendor Connect is our portal in which you will find most of our solicitation, our widely spread solicitations, but it's also a place where our central procurement office can see you, other vendors can see you as well, and even primes. So make sure that you are being using Vendor Connect to its full capabilities. Also, do your research. Vendor Connect is an amazing place to do some market research, as there are previous solicitations that are on there. There are also some solicitations also have the award winners for previous contracts. And so if you're seeing multiple contracts that are the same, especially our IDIQ contracts, those happen periodically. And so you want to know, hey, who are the folks that I should be getting in contact with? What is the port looking for historically, and what scopes and works can I do to put myself in a position to connect with a team? And then these two steps lead into the third of just getting ready. Build your firm's qualifications. When you're going through Vendor Connect and you're seeing what is required for a specific solicitation or a specific scope of work, try to qualify yourself in that. Get the certifications or the trainings or whatever it may be in order to put yourself in position to do that type of work. Get connected with mentors as well. And so we want to make sure that you're putting yourself in position right after this to get in position for your next contract. We also have some additional resources. Emily mentioned earlier that we do a lot of webinars and trainings that are helped by the incredible teams across the port. And so we have a port professional services cheat sheet, which was created by our central procurement office, which kind of tells you what you need to know about professional consulting here at the port. And we also have a professional services one-on-one presentation that you can always refer back to just to see how those things are procured. There are some other things too, like indirect cost rates. There's a lot of things to learn about contracting specifically with us, but also just in general when it comes to A&E or professional services. And so we have some additional resources there. And we have some amazing trainings and opportunities for these small and diverse business owners that are looking to grow as a business. We, as supporters of SBEs, VOBs, WIMBs, DBEs, we want to make sure that you feel like you have the capability and the capacity to work with the port, and we want to help you along with that. So we have advanced port gen trainings that happen every fall. These are drop-in, completely open to the public, where you can drop in for a session on various topics within the A&E construction space or procurement with the port in general. Also, Emily mentioned that we have a business accelerator mentorship program. Some of our esteemed panelists have supported that program and have been willing to mentor the next upcoming SBE, WIMBE, VOB, DBE as well. And so we want to make sure that you know that you're not doing this alone. And those applications will open in early July to begin in September with your cohort. And then that will end in December. And then we have a new capacity building mentorship program. Once again, we are trying to be on this walk with you. And all of these things will be found on our weekly email blasts, our quarterly newsletters. And to stay up to date to that, sign on to our mailing list. When you sign up to our mailing list, we will make sure that you're aware of all of these things that I just mentioned, as well as any activations and events that we will attend or be at. All right. Now, speaking of those activations, here are some things that we would love to make you aware of. Once again, we have some port gen events that are coming up. We have a planes, trains, and automobiles event that we do every summer in collaboration with Sound Transit, with WashDOT and OMWBE. And it's an amazing opportunity to hear about, hey, what are these government agencies looking for across the industry? I always say, hey, if you come to one of our events, we were hoping that you're gonna get a contract with us, but come to our events so that you're gonna get a contract with a prime or another agency. We want to support you in any way possible, even if it's not on a contract with us. Also later this year, we're gonna have a year-end celebration where we're gonna celebrate our business accelerator cohort, as well as primes that have supported the small businesses that we support as well. We also have some other networking events that are going to be key for you to attend. And so they're listed here: Alliance Northwest, the City of Seattle Reverse Vendor Trade Show, which is actually happening tomorrow. This is going to be a great opportunity to get in front of government agencies and other firms to showcase your work. And then the Regional Contracting Forum, which happens in the fall. But once again, we're going to go back to Vendor Connect, attend those pre-proposal conferences, submit bids, connect with primes, use it to its full capacity. Now, really quickly, y'all, because we only have a couple minutes left, I'm going to just speak on what today will consist of this afternoon. From 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. here at Pier 69, we're going to have an in-person networking session. One of the parts of that session is our exhibitor walk. We have 17 different key consultants that have either contracted or are contracting on current port contracts. And they are willing to meet with you because they want to see what you can do. They want to hear from you. They want to connect with you. And so hopefully after you attend this exhibitor walk, you'll know what people are looking for. You'll know what firms are looking for, and they will know what you do and what problems you have solved. So make sure that you go to this exhibitor walk later today at 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. here at Pier 69 to understand what primes and port partners are looking for and where you can share your capabilities. It's a great place to connect. There are people on this call that have won contracts from an event that we've put on. And so don't miss out. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for you. Also, here are some of the amazing professionals that will be willing to speak to you during this exhibitor walk. We have 10 different port teams that will be present, or actually more than 10 different port teams that will be present. And I want to mention that our construction management team will also be at the networking session. So that is a team led by Brian Sweet. And so please, please, please come to Pier 69 today from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah, we have folks that have spoke like Gary and Perry and other folks that weren't on the call that are still willing to meet you as well. So we have teams all across the port, our engineering teams, our aviation teams, our waterfront teams, our environmental teams, our central procurement teams. The list goes on. Be at Pier 69 today because they want to meet you, and we want to put you in the best position possible to win a port contract. And so hearing from them is going to be the best way to do that. Lastly, we also have speed networking. There are going to be 11 different primes that will have 12 different meetings from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. to meet with small business owners and women and minority business owners, all sorts of business owners, so that you can get in a better position to win a contract and to be in a teaming opportunity. This will be in that green section of the map, which is our 2D East conference room. A new round will begin every 15 minutes, and there will only be a 5-minute grace period before your meeting is offered to a different business. So please show up on time if you are scheduled to have meetings with any of our 11 primes. And if you are looking for a meeting, come find me near 2D East this afternoon if you're wanting to drop in case there is a no-show. And so once again, that is going to be in the green section of that map. Exhibitor walk will be in the red section. Networking will be in the blue section. And also not shown is that, hey, it is a beautiful day on the waterfront today. We're actually going to open up our terrace so that you can sit out there, network, enjoy the sun, and see this beautiful sound that we have. It's one of the greatest perks of working at the Port of Seattle. So bring your sunglasses and your sunscreen because we're so excited to connect with you. Y'all, that concludes this amazing presentation. I want to give kudos to my boss, Emily Ho, for putting this together, as well as all of the port presenters, the panelists, and all the folks that put in time to make today a reality. We're so excited and we're so thankful for your participation in this event. And we're so looking forward to seeing you from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Pier 69 later today. And so with that, thank you. That's it. Check your inboxes later today. We will be sending out this presentation as well as the recordings and actually the registrants list to make sure that you can connect further. So make sure that you're staying in tune with your email. I'm going to still be sending things out. Thanks, y'all.